Welcome to English Avenue YouTube, the channel to learn English the easy way. Let's start. Greetings to all. Today, I am about to unveil a story so enthralling, so profoundly emotional, that it will leave you in awe. You may have heard the name Taj Mahal before. Perhaps as a symbol of eternal love, as one of the most extraordinary wonders of the world, or as an architectural marvel that stands proudly in the heart of India. But what if I told you that its story runs deeper than mere beauty, that behind every stone, every intricate carving, and every shimmering marble surface, there lies a tale of undying devotion, unimaginable loss, and a love so powerful that it defied the passage of time? The Taj Mahal is not just an opulent structure built with dazzling white marble. It is a monument woven from love and sorrow, a masterpiece born from heartbreak, and an eternal tribute to an emperor's most cherished companion. This is not simply a historical landmark. It is a story that surpasses generations, one that continues to captivate millions even after nearly 4 centuries. It is the saga of a mighty ruler, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, and the woman who was the very essence of his soul, Mumtaz Mahal. Their love was not an ordinary romance. It was an unbreakable bond that knew no limits, one so profound that even in death, it refused to fade. After hearing this story, you will come to realize that the Taj Mahal is more than a breathtaking wonder. It is a love letter carved in stone, a whisper of devotion that echoes through time. Prepare yourself for an extraordinary journey, one that will take you through the corridors of power, into the depths of grief, and beyond the pages of history. This is not just a lesson about an emperor and his queen. This is a tale of passion, strength, heartbreak, and the lengths to which one man went to ensure that the name of his beloved would never be forgotten. So settle in, open your heart, and allow me to transport you to a bygone era, where love inspired the creation of something so magnificent that it still leaves the world in awe. One fateful day, as Prince Khurram strolled through the bustling royal bazaar, surrounded by merchants displaying the finest silks, artisans crafting intricate jewelry, and the enticing aroma of exotic spices filling the air, his eyes fell upon a vision so enchanting that it seemed as though time itself had stopped. There, amidst the crowd, stood a young woman unlike any he had ever seen before. She was not just beautiful, she was mesmerizing. Her long, jet-black hair cascaded down her back like a flowing river. Her deep brown eyes held a quiet mystery, and her radiant smile was enough to make the world around her fade into insignificance. This young woman was Arjuman Banu Begum, a noble Persian princess from one of the most esteemed families in the Mughal court. She was not just admired for her beauty, but also for her intelligence, grace, and unwavering kindness. The moment Khurram saw her, he knew that his heart no longer belonged to him. It belonged to her. In that instant, he felt something he had never known before, a love so powerful that it consumed every fiber of his being. It was love at first sight. But love in the royal court was never simple. Marriages among nobility were not determined by emotion or personal desire, but by political alliances and strategic advantages. Despite this, Khurram was resolute. He would not allow anything or anyone to keep him from the woman who had captured his soul. He went to his father, Emperor Jahangir, and made a bold declaration: "I will marry no one but Arjuman." The emperor, though aware of the complexities of royal marriage, saw the fire in his son's eyes and, after much deliberation, agreed to the union. However, There was a custom in the Mughal Empire that dictated that even after an engagement, royal marriages could not take place immediately. And so, for 5 long years, Khurram and Arjumand were forced to wait, their love growing stronger with each passing day. They communicated through poetry, through stolen glances in the palace gardens, and through an unspoken connection that transcended words. Finally, in 1612, the grand wedding took place, a celebration so extravagant that it was spoken of across the empire. The wedding was a spectacle of unmatched grandeur. The streets of Agra were lined with gold and silk. The palace was adorned with dazzling jewels, and the finest musicians played melodies of love and devotion. There were magnificent elephants draped in ornate fabrics, a feast prepared by the most skilled chefs of the empire, and fireworks that lit up the night sky in a dazzling display of joy. This was not just a marriage. It was the beginning of a love story that would be remembered for centuries to come. From the moment they were wed, Prince Khurram gave his beloved a new name, Taj Mahal, meaning the chosen one of the palace. And indeed, she was his chosen one in every sense. Though he was destined to rule an empire, it was clear that she ruled his heart. Unlike many Mughal rulers who took multiple wives for political reasons, Shah Jahan had 7 wives, but there was only one whom he truly loved, Mumtaz Mahal. She was not just his queen. She was his soulmate, his closest confidant, and the one person in whom he placed all his trust. Wherever Shah Jahan went, Mumtaz was by his side. Unlike other Mughal queens, who often remained within the confines of the palace, she traveled with him, even accompanying him on military campaigns. She was more than a silent royal consort. She was his advisor, his strength, and his greatest source of happiness. When he faced difficulties, it was her wisdom that guided him. When he felt sorrow, it was her embrace that gave him peace. For 19 years their love flourished. Together, they built a family, welcoming 14 children into the world. With each child, their bond grew stronger, their devotion to each other deepening. Mumtaz was not only a beloved wife, but also a kind-hearted queen who was adored by the people of the empire. She was known for her compassion, her generosity, and her unwavering support of her husband. Even the palace staff, the ministers, and the common folk spoke of her as a woman of unmatched grace and kindness. But as we all know, even the most beautiful love stories are not without their tragedies. Destiny had other plans, and the happiness that Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal had built together was about to be shattered in the most devastating way imaginable. The years that followed were filled with longing and anticipation. Though they were bound by an unbreakable promise, the weight of tradition kept them apart. Every moment they spent away from each other only deepened their affection, and their love grew stronger with each passing day. They found solace in stolen glances, in secret letters exchanged through trusted messengers, and in poetry that spoke of their unshakable devotion. Prince Khurram, though destined to become emperor, found that no victory, no wealth, and no power could bring him the joy that Arjumand's presence did. He dreamed of the day when they would finally stand side by side, not just as lovers but as husband and wife. Arjumand, too, endured the wait with patience, knowing that their love was worth every second of separation. Finally, in the year 1612, the moment they had waited for arrived. The wedding of Prince Khurram and Arjumand Banu Begum was not just a marriage, it was a spectacle that would be remembered for generations. The entire Mughal Empire rejoiced as preparations for the grandest wedding of the era began. The royal palace was adorned with shimmering silk, gold, and precious gemstones. Lavish feasts were prepared, featuring the finest delicacies from across the empire. The celebration lasted for days, with musicians playing mesmerizing melodies and poets reciting verses of love and devotion. On the day of the wedding, the streets of Agra were lined with people eager to witness the union of the beloved prince and his chosen bride. Royal elephants draped in luxurious fabrics paraded through the city, carrying gifts of unimaginable wealth. Inside the palace, the ceremony unfolded with the utmost grandeur. Arjumand, adorned in an exquisite bridal ensemble, shone like a celestial being. Her jewelry, encrusted with diamonds and pearls, reflected the flickering candlelight, and her beauty left everyone in awe. As Prince Khurram took her hand, he looked into her eyes and knew that this was the beginning of a love story unlike any other. In front of the entire court, he gave her a new name, Taj Mahal, meaning the chosen one of the palace. And indeed, she was his chosen one, the woman he would cherish for all his days. Their marriage was not just a political alliance. It was a rare and profound love story, one that defied the conventions of royal duty. Unlike most Mughal emperors, who took multiple wives for political reasons, Shah Jahan's heart belonged to only one woman. Though he had other wives, they were mere formalities in the grand scheme of his rule. Mumtaz Mahal was his one true love, his confidant, his source of strength. She was more than just a queen. She was his partner in every sense of the word. While other queens remained within the confines of the palace, Mumtaz was always by his side. She accompanied him on his travels, stood by him in times of war, and advised him in matters of governance. Her wisdom and kindness earned her the admiration of not only the royal court, but also the common people. She was known for her generosity, her compassion, and her ability to bring peace to even the most troubled hearts. For 19 blissful years their love flourished. Together, they built a life filled with happiness, welcoming 14 children into their family. Every moment they spent together was precious, and Shah Jahan treasured Mumtaz Mahal beyond all else. She was his muse, his anchor, his greatest joy. But as fate would have it, even the most extraordinary love stories are not immune to tragedy. The happiness that Shah Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal had built was about to be shattered in a way that neither of them could have ever imagined. The love that had inspired poetry, that had endured time, and that had burned brighter than any royal jewel, was soon to be tested by the cruel hands of destiny. Their love was unlike anything the empire had ever witnessed. It was not merely a marriage of duty, but a union of two souls who found solace in one another. Mumtaz Mahal was not just a queen who sat on a throne in luxury. She was Shah Jahan's equal, his advisor, and the only person he trusted completely. While most royal wives were expected to remain in the zenana, the secluded women's quarters of the palace, Mumtaz defied tradition. She was present in matters of state. She accompanied her husband during his military expeditions, and she stood beside him not only in moments of glory, but also in times of hardship. For 19 years, their love grew stronger with every passing day. They were inseparable, bound by a devotion so deep that it seemed unbreakable. Mumtaz Mahal bore 14 children for Shah Jahan, and each child was a symbol of their ever-deepening bond. She was not just the mother of his children, but the mother of the empire. beloved by the people for her generosity and wisdom. In the royal court, her voice carried weight, and her counsel was valued by ministers and nobles alike. She was known for her intelligence, her sharp political mind, and her ability to soothe conflicts with nothing but her words. Yet, despite the vast riches and power that surrounded them, what defined their love was not wealth or royalty, but the quiet, intimate moments they shared. The way Shah Jahan would reach for her hand when no one was watching, the way Mumtaz would comfort him when the burdens of ruling an empire grew too heavy. They were more than just emperor and empress. They were two souls intertwined, existing in a world of their own. But as with all great love stories, tragedy was waiting in the shadows, ready to strike when they least expected it. In the year 1631, everything changed. A rebellion had risen in the Deccan region, a threat to the Mughal Empire that Shah Jahan could not ignore. As always, Mumtaz refused to stay behind in the palace, insisting that she travel with him, despite being heavily pregnant with their 14th child. She had always been his constant companion, and this time was no different. Through scorching deserts and across treacherous landscapes, she journeyed beside him, enduring the hardships of war and travel. But the stress, the exhaustion, and the strain of pregnancy proved too much for her fragile body. As the battle raged on, in a small tent near the battlefield, Mumtaz went into labor. What should have been a joyous occasion quickly turned into a nightmare. The labor was long and excruciating. The midwives and royal physicians did everything in their power, but complications arose, and Mumtaz's condition worsened with every passing hour. The cries of childbirth turned into agonized whispers as her strength faded. Shah Jahan, who had faced countless battles and enemies, now stood powerless before the cruel hands of fate. He rushed to her side, holding her trembling hands as tears filled his eyes. She looked up at him, her once radiant face now pale and weak. With the last of her breath, she whispered her final wish, "Promise me you will never forget our love." Shah Jahan, his heart shattering, swore to her that he would love her until the end of time. And then, with one last fragile sigh, Taj Mahal, the love of his life, slipped away from him forever. The world around him ceased to exist. The emperor who had conquered lands, built grand palaces, and commanded armies now felt as if he had lost everything. Shah Jahan, the most powerful man in the empire, was reduced to nothing but a grieving husband, broken and inconsolable. The moment Mumtaz took her last breath, something inside him died as well. For 8 days he locked himself away in complete isolation. He neither ate nor drank, refusing to see anyone, not even his own children. The once mighty emperor, who had ruled with an iron will, was now a man consumed by sorrow. When he finally emerged, those who saw him were stunned. His once dark hair had turned completely white, his strong frame had weakened, and his eyes carried the unbearable weight of his grief. The man who had once ruled with confidence and strength was now merely a shadow of himself. But out of his sorrow was born a vision, a promise that he had made to Mumtaz in her final moments. He would build something so grand, so magnificent, that the entire world would remember her name for eternity. He would create a monument that would immortalize their love, a structure that would stand as a testament to the devotion he had for her. And thus the idea of the Taj Mahal was born, a monument not just of stone and marble, but of undying love and everlasting sorrow. For 19 blissful years, their love flourished, growing deeper and stronger with each passing moment. Together, they built a life filled with laughter, tenderness, and devotion, raising 14 children as living symbols of their eternal bond. Each birth was a joyous occasion, further cementing the love they shared. But even the most beautiful love stories are not immune to the cruelty of fate. A dark shadow loomed over their happiness, and in 1631, tragedy struck in a way that would forever change the course of history. Taj Mahal, the heart and soul of Shah Jahan, accompanied her husband on a military campaign to the Deccan region, as she always did. She had never been content to remain behind palace walls while he was away. Her love and loyalty demanded that she stand beside him, no matter the hardships. However, this journey proved to be too much for her delicate condition. Pregnant with their 14th child, she endured the brutal heat, the exhausting travel, and the stress of war. Her body, already weakened, could not bear the immense strain, and as they camped near the battlefield, she went into labor. The childbirth was agonizing, stretching on for hours, with royal physicians and midwives doing all they could to save her. She fought bravely, clinging to life, but her strength was fading fast. Though she delivered a beautiful baby girl, her body could no longer endure the suffering. As she lay on her deathbed, her breaths growing weaker, her eyes met Shah Jahan's one final time. He held her hands tightly, his heart shattering with each second that passed. With her last breath, she whispered a single plea. "Promise me you will never forget our love." And with that, she was gone. In that instant, the world of Shah Jahan collapsed. The mighty emperor, ruler of one of the greatest empires in history, was reduced to nothing more than a broken man. His grief was unbearable. The woman who had been his greatest joy, his unwavering support, and his truest love had been ripped away from him. He locked himself away, refusing to eat, drink, or see anyone. For 8 days, he remained in complete isolation, consumed by sorrow, as the empire around him waited in stunned silence. When he finally emerged, those who saw him gasped in disbelief. The strong, confident ruler they had known was gone. His once dark hair had turned completely white, his face was gaunt, his eyes hollow. It was as if the very life had been drained from him. But out of this unimaginable loss, a vow was born, a promise that Taj Mahal's memory would never fade, that her beauty and love would be immortalized in a way that the world would never forget. Shah Jahan declared, "I will build a monument so grand, so perfect, that the name Taj Mahal will live on for eternity." And so the greatest tribute to love ever created began to take shape. Determined to honor his beloved, Shah Jahan summoned the finest architects, artisans, and craftsmen from across the world. He spared no expense, gathering the rarest and most exquisite materials. White marble was brought from Rajasthan, its pristine surface chosen to reflect the purity of Mumtaz's soul. Jade and crystal arrived from the distant lands of China, turquoise from the mountains of Tibet, lapis lazuli from the heart of Afghanistan, sapphires from Sri Lanka, and the finest diamonds from the legendary mines of Golconda. The construction of the Taj Mahal was an undertaking like no other. Over 20,000 laborers worked tirelessly, carving, shaping, and assembling every intricate detail, while 1,000 elephants transported the precious materials. For 22 long years, the empire poured its heart and soul into this masterpiece, ensuring that every element, from the towering minarets to the delicate floral inlays, would be nothing short of perfection. When the final touches were placed, The result was nothing less than breathtaking. The Taj Mahal stood in all its glory, a shimmering vision of elegance and grandeur. Its dome soared into the heavens, its white marble walls glowed under the sunlight, and its intricate carvings told a story of love, loss, and eternal devotion. The moment one laid eyes upon it, they could feel the depth of emotion that had inspired its creation. But the story did not end there. Though the Taj Mahal was a monument to love, Shah Jahan's own fate was not as kind. Years later, his own son Aurangzeb would seize the throne and imprison him in Agra fort. From his prison cell, the once great emperor spent his final days gazing at the Taj Mahal through a small window, longing to be reunited with the woman who had been his everything. And when he finally took his last breath in 1666, his body was laid to rest beside Mumtaz Mahal, fulfilling the promise he had made so many years before. Today, the Taj Mahal is more than just an architectural wonder. It is a story carved in stone, a timeless reminder of love's power, the depths of grief, and the endurance of devotion. Millions from all corners of the earth travel to witness its splendor, to stand in the presence of a monument built not for a kingdom, but for a love that defied time itself. As the sun sets and the Taj Mahal glows under the moonlight, one cannot help but feel the presence of the emperor and his queen, their love forever etched into history. The Taj Mahal is not merely a building. It is an experience, an emotion, a legend that will live on for eternity.